Okay, call to order the committee of the whole meeting for June 23rd, 2020. First item on the agenda tonight is roll call.
Miller,
Here.
Rosado,
Here.
Beck, here. Shanzit,
Here.
Barron, here. Wolf,
Here.
O'Brien,
Here.
Callahan,
Here.
Meitzler,
Here.
Malay, Ewer,
Here.
Cerrone,
Here.
McFadden. We have 11 out of 14.
Okay, thank you very much. A reminder again to speak directly into whatever microphone you're using so we can hear you well, so it can get recorded to be rebroadcast. Item number 3 would be approval of the minutes from June 2nd, 2020 and June 9th, 2020. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, notations, anything? If not, I will make the motion that we recommend to council approval of the minutes for June 2nd and June 9th, 2020.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Cerrone. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay, absent. Ewer,
Aye.
Cerrone,
Aye.
McFadden, absent. Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck, aye. Not absent. Shanzit
Aye.
and Barron. Aye. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next up would be items to be removed, added, or changed. Does anybody have anything for this evening? Okay,
No.
hearing nothing. We will move on then to item number 5, matters from the public for items not on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak tonight?
Just a reminder, whenever a member of the public would like to speak, there is an icon that looks like a little hand, and if you click that, then we know that you would like to be called upon to speak.
Okay, hearing nothing, we will move on then to item number 6, ordinance 20-39.
We do have somebody there. Craig
Oh, we do.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Foltas, you are able to speak?
Okay. I just wanted to talk. I've never done one of these on the computer before. I don't know if this is the time that I talk about the River Street, or do I talk about that later in the day?
That'll be later in the meeting, item number 8, Craig.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Hang around.
I'm
Oops, I'm sorry. May have cut him off a moment too soon.
No problem.
Hey, Alan, it's Drew. I just joined.
Okay. Now we are 12 and 2. All right. So then next up would be item number 6, ordinance 20-39, amendment to the official zoning map of the General Industrial District, 1501 North Kirk Road, City of Batavia applicant. Alderman Callahan.
Thank you. So this is ordinance 20-39. It's regarding 1501 North Kirk, which is the southwest corner of Batavia and Kirk. This ordinance is proposing to change from the general commercial GI to, GC to the general industrial GI. back on April 14th at our cow, we had an initial proposal for the 37-acre property. The owner is Joe Keim, president of Joe Keim Land Corporation. Based on the information we had at cow, we initiated and directed staff to initiate an amendment to the zoning map. It did go through the plan and zoning review on June 3rd, and by a vote of 6-0, the commission approved the findings. So what we can do with this is accept the proposed ordinance 20-39 as presented, consider any amendments, or do a denial. Joel, do you want to add anything that was brought up at the Plan Commission, or have anything else to add? I guess I forgot there. You can address maybe the Joe Keim's rescission for if this does not go to a GI per
Sure.
the original proposal.
Sure. A couple of things. First, there was nobody spoke at the public hearing. No members of the public spoke. The Plan Commission did make the findings, as you noted, and they are listed in the ordinance. One thing that Mr. Keim did request, giving his consent for the city to seek this rezoning, was that if this particular manufacturer ends up not building on his property, he would like his property to go back to the general commercial district that it is now. So we included that as a provision in the ordinance itself. I'm just trying to get to that. That would be section 3 of the ordinance. And we're giving this approximately 2 years. So if the development doesn't begin by, or the zoning or the entitlements have not been secured for this manufacturer by July 6th of 2022, the rezoning would automatically go away and it would revert back to the current general commercial district.
Thank you, Joel. Does anyone have any questions for Joel? Is there any hands or any members of the public that want to speak on this one?
Nobody has any hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Joel, quick question on the automatic 2-year. What is the trigger for that if, say, it hasn't automatically, or it hasn't finished yet through the process, but it's being substantially worked on? Would it trigger? Would it, could it be delayed at that point?
The worst case scenario is the council would have to take some positive action to delay the automatic reversion. My guess is that if we have a serious entitlement application and it's going through the process, we would encourage, or we'd bring to the city council if needed, we would bring to the city council the extension of the industrial zoning through the end of the entitlement process. We would give it another further out sunset date.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions on this one? Hearing nothing, I recommend we approve ordinance 20-39 to City Council, amendment to the official zoning map to the GI General Industrial District from GC General Commercial District, 1501 North Kirk Road, southwest corner of Fabian Parkway, City of Batavia. Applicant.
Second, Meisler.
Motion by Callahan, second by Meisler. Roll call.
Okay, Callahan,
Aye.
Meitzler,
Aye.
Malay, absent, Ewer,
Aye.
Throne,
Aye.
McFadden,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf, absent. Pungent,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
and O'Brien.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next up would be item number 7, ordinance 20-40, rescinding ordinance 19-06 to authorize execution of an annexation agreement for annexation and development of the Winding Creek subdivision property, 2537 West 330 McKee Street, MI Homes of Chicago, LLC applicant. Alderman Callahan?
Thank you. So this one is related to the city previous and entering into an annexation agreement with MI Homes, the owner of the property. And we previously approved back in March of last year, ordinance 19-06, containing the annexation agreement. That has since the owner of the parcel and the MI Homes were not able to come to a sale, and they have withdrawn from this development, which is unfortunate, but it happens. And this is the cleanup of that in order to make sure that we are rescinding that prior. Joel, if you could maybe explain why we're having to do it and instead of just leaving it out there.
Sure. It's the best practice to just remove this or this positive action by the city council to execute an annexation agreement. We wouldn't want any previous approvals encumbering the property. However, we do intend on sharing with any future prospective developer all the work that we've gone through and encourage development that would be reflective of what this development was supposed to be. When the city council approved or recommended or approved execution of the agreement, the city council also amended the comprehensive plan, showing the land uses to fit what this development would have been. We are not bringing that forward to undo. We are leaving that in place. So that would be additional notice to developers of what we're looking for on this property.
Thank you, Joel. Does anyone have any questions for Joel or any comments? Anybody from the public? Any hands raised, Howard?
None at this time.
Okay. So with that, I will recommend approval to City Council, Ordinance 20-40, rescinding Ordinance 19-06 to authorize the execution of an annexation agreement for annexation and development of the Winding Creek subdivision property, 2537 W330 McKee Street, MI Homes of Chicago, LLC applicant.
Second, Ewer.
Motion by Callahan, second by Ewer. Roll call, please.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay, absent. Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Casado?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
Knopf, absent. Pungent?
Aye.
Barron?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
And O'Brien.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Alan, can both of those go on the consent? Or
I believe
don't
they
know
can
about-
both go on consent.
okay. If for whatever reason they have to come off of consent, I will not be at the July 6th, so
Okay.
Alderman Saron will present.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next up is Marquis discussion of the evening, location of the northern border of River Street closure. And I guess everybody hopefully is aware of what we're discussing here, is where and how long during the week we want to close this. Do we want to keep it where we had originally set it all the way to the end of the bricks that we have on River Street, or do we want to move it down to make State Street and River Street intersection more usable? Those are, I guess, the questions we need to answer tonight. I know we do have members of the public here to discuss, and give input on this. Laura, do you want to start off with anything else? What we've already done or set up with property owners and businesses there?
Yes. So this is something that was set in motion very quickly on May 26th. The governor let us know that the bars and restaurants were going to be allowed to serve outdoors. And so it just so happened that we had a committee of the whole meeting that night and were able to discuss putting in place plans for allowing for public dining tables for the businesses to increase the area in which they were able to serve patrons. And one of the very first area that was designated was North River Street. And there are 18 public dining tables that were placed there. And thanks to the generous offer of the Park District to loan those to us for free. Initially, we were only able to make that a one-way street because the intersection of Wilson Street and North River Street is considered a part of Illinois State Route 25, and it required the city of Batavia to get a permit from IDOT in order to be able to fully close that intersection. Our permit runs immediately and through the end of November. And so we are able to close that intersection. But it is at the discretion of the city of Batavia what the northern boundary of that closure would be. Initially, we had recommended the south end of the intersection of State Street and North River Street that would allow passage of vehicles from westbound State Street to northbound North River Street and the opposite as well. But at that meeting on the 26th, we determined let's try the all of the brick area, and then we can back that away if need be. At the following city council meeting on June 1st, we had a local business owner who requested that until we obtain the IDOT permit, if we would just maintain the closure at the south end of the State Street intersection with North River Street, and council granted that request. The IDOT process our permit application much quicker than we expected. And so we were able to fulfill closing that intersection this morning at 8:00 a.m., which I apologize came really as a shock to some of the people in the area. I'd anticipated that I'd have a little bit more time to provide advance notice. And so I think that that was a shortfall in this process, that the communication with local business owners and property owners could have been conducted better. And so I apologize for that inconvenience. But yes, you framed the questions tonight that we are looking at is what time should this be closed and what should be the limits of the closure.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I want to make sure that we have access for all of the, business needs or physical needs on that street, whether it be garbage pickup, food and beverage delivery, access to the buildings that residents and businesses need. So I think that those things are all things we need to take in consideration of this. I don't have a problem with us using, the concrete barriers to block off the Wilson Street entrance to River Street. I think that's the right thing to do there. So that way the rest of this summer and into the fall, we can utilize that street as much as possible to help the businesses that are there. But I do think that especially during the week, we look at what are the impacts or what would be the easiest way to allow access to that for all of those normal business operations, that have to occur there. I mean, we make sure when we blocked off Water Street that we left that open to the alley so that they had access to all of the garbage dumpsters, all the delivery points, the rear access to all those businesses. So that way that wasn't going to be something we had to deal with. I know River Street's a little bit different than that because there has to be access in there. There has to be access for emergency services to get in there. There has to be access for, garbage pickup, all those things. So, I think that that's something that hopefully we can make sure that all those things happen as best we can throughout the week, but I think probably, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, that really would be blocked off unless there was some delivery or some need to get in there so that there could be as much use by those businesses, restaurants, and bars to be able to utilize that street as much as possible.
Yeah, so that's why we only use the type 3 barricade at the northern boundary, was so that either from North River Street or from State Street, given the current configuration, that a delivery truck or a waste hauler could simply just move aside the type 3 barricade and put it back in place when they were done with whatever service delivery they were performing.
Okay. And the lower level of the parking garage, will that also be barriered off or blocked off from entrance to River Street so that that's not possible to sneak in through the parking lot and end up out on the street?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That should already be in place.
Okay, is anybody else on the council? Go ahead, Laura.
No, Jeff Shelkey, I'd like to make a few comments if I'd like.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to point out before Mayor speaks that the lower level of the parking deck is now designated as private parking only. And those are the replacement spaces for those property owners who lost access to their current parking as a result of the street closure.
Okay.
Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to jump in on this one. I've been the object of a number of communications, say the last 4 or 5 days about this. There seems to be some significant concerns in the neighborhood specifically, and I want to second what you've just said about the need for deliveries and emergency vehicles to be able to access that area. I think this can all be worked out to the satisfaction of everybody involved, but to just blatantly shut down that street and say nobody can go north of State Street on River to do anything in a vehicle, it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I think to some, and there may be some on this call tonight that will want to speak to this, because I've encouraged them to do so. This really does, I think, bring a burden and an undue angst on a lot of folks there that really need to have some ability to access their property, specifically some of the alleyways and whatever. The way I look at this, the big time of business down there, as you just said, seems to be Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday. And I think, with the farmers market and now with the boardwalk shops, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, and we don't want cars in there, and that's totally understandable. But I think, Monday morning or Tuesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, when there's not a lot of traffic there, since this all happened, I've been over there every day at different times looking at, who's there. And today I went in there and there was two tables that had some people sitting at them, but not during the lunchtime period. There wasn't a lot of that. And I guess I'm wondering about that parking garage situation that we've now posted it, that it's private parking for tenants only over there. And, that was built as a public garage. And I've already been shot at by one taxpayer who said, well, now I built something to provide private parking for renters in downtown Batavia. So, there's some come sa on that one as to whether or not we should just blatantly say only people who are renting can park in there. But I guess I can understand both of that one. But I really think we got to keep this thing somewhat open-ended and allow for some circulation to take place, specifically coming down State Street, where it comes on the river, just blatantly to block off State Street and not allow anybody down on there, I think could potentially hurt some businesses. I don't want to name any names, but I've had several mention to me that they have serious concerns about the impacts that a 4 or 5 month closing of this street could have on their business and their ability to stay in downtown Batavia. And then as it's already been pointed out to me on several occasions, probably 2 of our bigger restaurants on that street from Wilson up to State have recently closed down. And so there's a lot of vacancy right there now. And what does that do as far as encouraging somebody to come in there and want to move in? Maybe it helps it, maybe it doesn't. But I mean, I'm not sure we've put ourselves in the right public position with this action the way it's currently designed. And I would just ask the council to seriously consider some loosening of what we are doing over there, because there is a need to have some flexibility about utilization and use of that street. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments from the council?
Alan, this is Abby.
Abby, go ahead.
I wanted to second some of the things that the mayor had said, and also thank staff for getting this pushed through as quickly as it did get pushed through. And I think that the tone and the intent behind wanting to get it closed was just the uncertainty of how long we're going to be, with outdoor dining only, and wanting to give some sort of a jump start to our restaurant's recovery. And I think it's been great. I mean, I've heard from so many people about how much they enjoy the outdoor dining, the European feel of downtown Batavia all of a sudden. And I think it's also going to be a really great test for what the mayor is saying, like what makes the most sense moving forward. I'm in support. I'm in support of the fact that it's shut down now as a way to test and to find out and work out all of these kinks that are there. I've been down there in the middle of the week on weekdays in the middle of the day when it is pretty slow, and don't know if post summer 2020, if things go back to some sort of a normal, if being shut down 24/7 during these nice months is going to be totally necessary, and wouldn't mind seeing it shut down only on the weekends, as we discussed before. I think that would give us some flexibility with the other local businesses around there, some flexibility with their operations. And if it's the desire of the council too to say that we don't keep it shut 24/7 now as we move into stage 4, I'd be fine, but I would advocate for the fact that we keep it closed on the weekends, that we keep the tables or increase the table count as Main Street has asked for, because I think that's going to be an improvement to our downtown moving forward, and a really positive result of all of this moving and shaking and changing and whatnot.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Alan, it's Marty.
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Abby said, because part of what we're trying to do, we haven't even done yet. We have not been able to see if it's going to succeed or not. We've seen other communities right from the get-go close down their streets, and they're packed, absolutely packed with restaurants. So today's day 1. We've had a confusing hybrid due to our situation with waiting for the approval from IDOT. I think that kind of gave a little bit of the is it open, is it closed, and it's promoted some confusion among residents, businesses. I don't think we've communicated that well from the beginning. We did know right off the bat that we needed to close these streets. We needed to make a decision that the interior of the majority of businesses that were kind of affected on that street needed to use the street to survive. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They either had the street available to them or they didn't, and they would not be at the same competitive advantage as even some of the other locations in the downtown. Closing the street off for this time period with a well thought out plan for the concerns with the other business owners out there is what needs to be done. I'm okay with, I know there's some concern about closing it from state or past state, I'm okay with keeping it at state for right now and just loading it up with picnic tables and coverings so that those people can use the exterior. Just because we're going into phase 4, getting ahead of myself, going into phase 4 where people will be allowed to go back inside does not mean that a significant portion of the residents in our community are going to be willing to go inside at this point. They might be willing to go outside, but they may have some concerns about going and sitting in an enclosed restaurant at this point. So we've got to kind of balance some of the concerns that people do have at this point, and close it for the time being with just exactly everything that the mayor and Abby said, is figure out how to make sure that we're getting the deliveries in timely and the garbage pickup.
Anybody else?
Alan, it's Dan. Just really briefly, do we have any estimate on what it costs each time we make a decision to open or close? The transition time takes man hours, takes work to actually move the physical stuff that's there. So do we know roughly how much it costs every time we make a decision to open and close?
You're muted, Laura.
I believe Gary is on the call, and maybe he might be able to respond to that.
And I don't know that we're talking about opening and closing the Wilson Street entrance onto River Street. I think that's blocked off now, and we're going to leave that blocked off. In my mind, I would think
Where would
about
people turn around?
What?
Where would people turn around?
Well, the only way we would do that would be able to allow people to go through the parking garage. That was one of my thoughts, was if we were to open the other end of the street, it would only be to go through and circulate through the parking garage to get back onto State Street.
I'm not sure if people would realize that, or if they would
Okay.
try to make a series of 5-point or 7-point
Burns, yeah. Okay.
I can comment too. I mean, as Laura started this conversation, at State Street, we simply have a Type 3 barricade. Any adult can walk out and pull the Type 3 barricade aside and drive in. It is not as if there's a concrete barricade up there that is immovable. So a garbage truck driver arrives, he slides the barricade over, he goes in, he picks up his dumpster, he comes back out, he slides the barricade back, and that's it. It isn't insurmountable to just leave the barricades and have people slide them over.
I can speak from experience. I've moved them.
So we just need to communicate to the people who have the authority to move the barricade that they should know that it's okay to move it for a delivery or move it for whatever.
Yes, and that has been communicated.
Exactly.
That seems like a fair compromise.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I just wanted to say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the only concern that I have is if we're looking at trying to add more picnic tables to that area, I think what we need to do is discuss the particular area when the picnic tables are going to be out in the roadway. Do we say that we're going to expand our picnic tables Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to accommodate deliveries and the garbage pickup? Because, if we're saying to them that they have to move the barrier, what if there are tables out there? The other thing that comes as a concern to me, where other communities have been able to fill the tables, is they've allowed the restaurants, the establishments, to create additional dining area. What we've done is something different, where it's more of a picnic area, where it's a grab and go, unless they're able to get some servers, that go there. So that's where a lot of the restaurants have been able to be successful. And is that something that maybe some of our establishments are going to be wanting with this, is to have a particular seating area where they can serve?
Right. I think first off, I don't think the tables will ever be out in the middle of the road, because we have to leave that open for emergency services. That cannot be blocked off throughout the middle of the road. So there wouldn't be an issue with, you know, a driver or an ambulance or police vehicle having to get out and move a table out of the way to get through the street. So that's not part of that. And I think Laura wants to talk about the rest of it.
Yes, so the mayor's executive order number 4 allowed restaurants the opportunity to apply for expanding their outdoor seating area. And that's open to any of those businesses on North River Street as well. I don't know if they were discouraged from doing that because they would then have to make an investment in, creating an additional seating area versus in this case, they have additional seating that they didn't even have to pay for.
Laura, if
But
I can
any
jump in. Oh, sorry.
businesses could apply for additional space. They just haven't.
Laura, if I could jump in.
We can barely hear you,
Scott.
Scott.
How about this now? Better?
Better.
Better? Okay, so River's Edge has elected not to do their normal outdoor area right now. So they're just using the picnic tables for their patrons right now. So, I mean, they normally would have an outdoor area and they could expand it, but they've elected not to do that. I know at least one other restaurant, I think it was El Taco Grande, is serving people on the picnic tables because I saw it myself. I think it was El Taco, but I don't know who it was. But it was somebody, one server that was serving people out there. So there is no restriction from them wanting to do that if they wish to do so.
Mm-hmm.
We do have someone from the public, an attendee with their hand raised. If you're
Okay.
able to.
Is there anybody else from the council before we go to public comment?
Yeah, this is Mark. Just in general agreement that, yes, we need to try and do something, and I'm okay with not closing it all the way to the end of the street. And I think when we start talking about how do we do this and how do restaurants take full advantage of it, since there's not that many there, there were comments on Facebook that restaurants can deliver there. I think, between the Main Street and Chamber, they need to work on ways to advertise all the restaurants that you could order from, whether they put up some menu boards or something in that area that allows people to recognize that they walk in there, oh, I can get, Mexican and pizza and Chinese and whatever, if those businesses are willing to deliver food to those areas. So I think that we just need to work with this, and there's other things that can be creatively done in this area to continue to promote it and fill those tables on a more regular basis.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Go ahead,
I would
Nick.
like to speak, and I apologize. My computer shut down, so I missed a good portion of that discussion, and I was so I don't want to repeat or waste time. I had I think we're all in consensus, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to confirm that is kind of consensus. Where it's shut down, but we're going to limit it to State Street. Is that where everyone's kind of at for the time being?
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
And then you had sent something, Alan, that raised some concerns. We're not putting any tables on the street?
They will not be out in a traffic lane. There has to be one traffic lane down the middle of the road so that emergency services can get through there. We will not block the street with tables.
So it'll expand from where it is now, but you need a lane.
There still has to be a lane down there. Similar to what we do at the farmer's market, where you have to leave access for emergency vehicle.
Okay, and that'll typically be used as an aisle or walkway, unless obviously the rare event that an emergency vehicle would have to go down there, it's there.
Right, and it also addresses the issue that was raised by someone else about the delivery vehicles and the waste haulers, and even our own, because we do have a lift station down in that area as well, and we need to be able to get our equipment down there. And so we still need to maintain the lane so that those vehicles can safely travel to those alleyways.
So if we keep the street open, let's say Monday through Thursday afternoon, we wouldn't have to move tables. We just keep that lane available and delivery trucks and whatnot can go through. Is that kind of the thought process?
Yeah, yes, and you may have missed the portion where Gary Holm was talking about the fact that the northern boundary only has the type 3 barricade, and any
Right.
adult has the strength to just move that to the side. So there's no need to open it to traffic merely for the need to have deliveries and waste hauling.
So, right, okay. Yeah, I was on for that. So they would have authority to move that and get in. But on the south side, we're looking at placing cement barriers.
That's right.
Okay, I think we're all in consensus, and I recommend we continue to visit this and utilize the chamber and Main Street and what they learn from the businesses to see what's working, what's not, and stay nimble. So that's all. I just wanted to confirm that I was on the right page with what I missed. So thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Alan.
Thanks, Nick. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, I was just wondering, could the businesses perhaps ask their deliveries and we have the trash pickups somewhat early in the morning? Because as weather's getting nicer and people are going to have lunch on the street, be kind of uncomfortable if you're eating and a garbage truck drives by, stuff hanging out of the back. So I just thought maybe that might be something we can look into.
They actually, Mike, they already do that.
Okay. So all deliveries and everything is early morning.
Yeah, they want to avoid the traffic as much as anything in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So they try to make their schedule to get in and out of there when they know they don't have to deal with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it all sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Craig, are you still there?
So I am Craig Photos and Sherry Wilcox. You guys are unmuted.
Okay.
We're unmuted. Do you want to go first, Sherry?
No, go ahead, Craig. Go
Okay.
ahead.
My name is Craig Fultos, and I own Fultos Tonsorial Parlor in beautiful downtown Batavia, 7 East Wilson Street. And I've been there for 44 years that I've owned it, and my father owned it before me. First, I want to thank you guys for all this hard work, doing all this on the fly. And I just have a few concerns. As I've owned it for a while and I'm getting a little older, a lot of my clientele is getting older. And I'm not in favor of closing the lower level of the parking deck to just private people. That sends a real bad message to me. And a lot of my clients are in their 70s, 80s. They don't come down in the farmer's market because there's no place to park for them. Because if there's Wilson Street's crowded and they can't go on the parking garage to park, then they're lost. And by taking those few spaces off of River, I get that you're doing that for right now for the time being. But I would really like to keep the lower level open for anybody who wants to park there. And if my tenant doesn't want to park on the second story, then they shouldn't be my tenant, because everybody needs to pitch in and work together to make this better. I'm all about whatever I can do to help make it a better town. I've been that way my whole life. I want to help support those restaurants, and I know they need help. So I'm all in favor of this Friday, Saturday, and if they're going to be open Sundays or Thursday nights. But as the mayor spoke, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are pretty barren down there. And I'd like to know that as a city council that we're going to address this in October or November, that this just doesn't go by the wayside and it's a done deal. Because obviously I live here, I want to make it a good town, keep making it a better town. And I certainly don't want to discriminate against my older clients that are having a hard time getting to me as it is, much less making them walk more than a block. And so that's about all I have to say. And again, thank you. And I know that all this has come out at us all at once, and we're trying to learn as we go. So thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Alan?
Yes, Marty, go ahead.
Just real quick on that point. I think for what we had, if my memory is correct, we had talked about that the bottom portion of the parking garage was just for those businesses and it could be their customers. I know that Sarah Greenhagen's business with having people with physical therapy, she doesn't have a tenant, but she would have a customer that would need to have use of that spot. So I would say that it would be a quote unquote private parking for tenants of those buildings, whether they're dwelling there or using those businesses for there, where there's a need. Sarah Greenhagen,
that's what they are.
Craig's. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to make sure that we were kind of all clear on that it's not for somebody that is living in an apartment there, but it is a little more broadly defined than that.
It is. Yes, there are 5 business buildings who have been granted spaces to replace spaces that existed in that lower parking lot associated with the Harris buildings.
Right. And some of those Craig's customers, Sarah's customers, they're going to be in and out after an hour and a half, probably with either PT or a haircut.
Okay, Sherry, did you want to comment?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. First, thanks for having me. I did want to echo what Mark was talking about. There are restaurants, River's Edge and Oak and Swine for sure, that have been servicing those tables via either an online order or a call-in order. I've done it myself, where you order via an app to River's Edge and tell them what table you're at, and they bring their stuff out to you. So some of the businesses have started using creative means to utilize those tables as more than your standard carryout. I did want to say that. Second, I think that several people have mentioned it, but there's probably not enough that we can mention about being agile with this, because it isn't just, one business isn't more important than the other. And I totally support outdoor dining on River Street. I think the more people that we bring to the area, all the businesses will benefit from, but I urge you to be as agile as possible with some of the individualized needs of our local businesses. Councilman Callahan mentioned Sarah Greenhagen and her folks as well. The Salt Cave has a couple of clients with some respiratory distress that traditionally get dropped off so they don't have to walk as far. So if there's any way that during those weekdays, during those down times, we can work with these businesses to make accommodations, to make allowances so that those people can get dropped off, or so that, as you said, deliveries can be scheduled at times that aren't busy dining times. Whether that means that during those times, the north end of the street is partially barricaded with a sign that says local traffic only, or however you decide to do it, I urge you to be as agile as possible. Our goal at Main Street, and I know your goal at the city as well, is to keep as many of these businesses still in their spots come fall and come next year. And dining has certainly taken a huge hit, and I support anything we can do to put people on the street, to put people on River Street, walking the street, dining from our restaurants and frequenting our businesses, but I don't want to cut anybody off at the knees unnecessarily. So anything we can do to work with these businesses, some of them we may need, I think we may need to make some accommodations one-on-one and figure out a situation that works well for everybody. And any way I can help with that, I would like to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to mention with regard to the dropping off, the same problem with regard to having to do many point turns in order to exit the area once you drive in with a vehicle would still exist there. And the Salt Cave and Sarah Greenhagen's physical therapy office have spaces in the lower level of that parking deck directly across from their business.
Laura, how is that going to be enforced? Like, what are we going to do if people just park there? Are we going to tow them? Are we going to take them out of there? The only reason I ask is because today, the way the street was closed off today, I know that there were several clients that didn't know where to park, didn't know where to go, and ended up leaving and not coming back. So I'm worried that they may have, okay, spot number 2 is reserved for Salt Cave customers, and he tells them to park in spot number 2, but somebody's drinking at the bar and they parked there anyhow. What happens? What's the enforcement?
So there is a giant sign right above the entryway that says private parking only. So I would hope it would be an indication to members of the public that this is no longer a space where the public is allowed to park. Mary Claire Harris requested between her 5 buildings that have tenant businesses in them, 10 spaces. And there were 2 buildings on Wilson Street that requested 2 spaces. So that's 14 spaces. There are 18 spaces in the lower level of the parking deck, as well as 3 additional handicap parking spaces. And so there is a sufficient volume of spaces to service those businesses. And I have let each one of the building owners know that if this becomes a problem, that they pull in expecting there to be a space for them, as we have promised, that we will look for a different solution. We will continue to be agile as we are with the situation that is out on the street, and maybe we go to a parking pass hanging, from the rear view mirror instead of just allowing people to park there. But that would be difficult for those who have clients who are coming in and then need to somehow get the pass from the business and go back and put that in their vehicle to know that they have the right to park there. So I'm open to suggestions.
Alan?
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, along those lines, Laura, I know it had been mentioned maybe a little bit about relying on Main Street and the chamber to kind of get this word out. This is a city project. This is a city closure of the street in the time being. I would like to see us spearhead the communication efforts on this a little more comprehensively, and maybe the city takes the point in making sure that there are standard communications going out to these, and then businesses, while they also can maintain their working relationships with Chamber and Main Street, that they contact the city directly via our communications director to kind of eliminate the middleman and make sure that from the city point of view, we do know what's going on, that the information from the city is being conveyed to the city, and we can put out standard messages to all those affected businesses and work with the business owners and Main Street and Chamber for a solution.
So as the signage that is throughout that area indicates, that this outdoor dining experience is actually a collaboration between and amongst the 3 different groups. And it would be very hard for the city to have someone available to walk from door to door in order to make the same type of communications. And we really appreciate the great job that Sherry does in being that connection to the businesses. So, but I would like there to have been something that we put into people's hands that gave them notice that all of this was happening. It really is a collaboration. It is not just a city effort, because that would minimize everything that Sherry has done to try to make this a successful venture amongst the 3 different groups, and Margaret as well.
Oh, no, and I absolutely agree. It would not be the most efficient use of any one person's resources to go knocking door to door. I know Sherry and Margaret do a great job with that, but I think a comprehensive email that can go out to the businesses is an effective use of time, where then people can have a single point of contact for at the city level to focus on that, especially someone whose job it is to communicate city positions and take the concerns and make sure that they are being delivered to the appropriate staff.
And it's a good justification, once again, for business registration, because no list exists here at the city of the business owners and their email addresses. So that's another reason why looking forward to getting that type of system where no matter which business group it is that we're reaching out to, it makes those communications abundantly easier.
Okay, anybody else have any comments?
Alan, if I could just follow up on what Laura said. Laura, if you guys come up on city council with the city with a set of, this is when it's going to be closed, this is what's allowed, this is what we suggest for scheduling drop-offs or pickups, talk to your property owner about your space in the parking garage, that sort of bullet pointed list, Main Street would be more than happy to distribute that to the businesses on River Street.
Great.
I
Thanks,
just don't know all the particulars. So, and then, like you said, this morning was kind of crazy because we didn't even know it was happening this morning until it was happening. So if I can get that list, I would be more than happy to communicate that to the contiguous businesses.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
So Laura, if you can figure out, either you or Griffin, somebody get that list together and then get that to them so that they can get it distributed, then that part will be handled. I guess to wrap this up, I think from what I'm hearing, the majority has spoken so far, is that we want to move the closure of River Street south to allow State Street to be open onto River Street. So we can use that turn. The more I thought about this as I was down there a few times, was for drop-offs and pickups, even if you're dropping a client off, say to go to one of those businesses, to be able to have that corner to turn at or stop at, to drop people off or to pick up food from a restaurant down there, whatever you're doing, that makes a lot more sense for circulation purposes down there, even if we lose a couple places for tables and have to move those over to the other side of the intersection. I think that can be worked out easier than not having that access through there. And I think all of the access for garbage trucks, deliveries, client pickup and drop-offs, and access for property owners to their own properties in there, I think that can all be worked out throughout the week when there isn't, the giant influx of people. I mean, I'm sure people over the last several years have completely reworked their schedules on weekends to get in and out of around the farmers market, because that has been such a success there and so many people there. There's no way you would ever want to have anything done or on your building or try to do any deliveries or anything on a Saturday. That just wouldn't work. So I think everybody in that area has all planned around that, and I think that's worked very well. So if there isn't anything else, I think that's where we're at on the closure of the street. As far as the time frame goes, I think at this point, at least for the next couple of weeks, I would like to see us leave it alone as far as days we have it closed, and truly see, how much it gets used during the middle of the week compared to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Any thoughts or comments on that?
I agree with you, Alan.
Yeah, I agree too, Alan.
I agree, Alan.
Anybody disagree with me?
Well, there was kind of going along the lines of what you're saying for, in order to make sure we have enough people out there. There was a suggestion about possibly purchasing extra tables, that maybe some of the money from the economic development grant, or renting them or something along those lines, because I know our great partners over at the Park District are tapped out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would recommend we'll try to do some monitoring of how many additional tables are needed based on how many get used during high volume times over the next 2 weeks. And it's possible that the South Water Street, I'm not sure if that's the ideal number of tables to have over there. So maybe there's an opportunity there to move some of the tables from South Water Street over to North River Street.
Maybe also explore umbrellas for the tables that are out there too. It is July, as I was reminded of.
Umbrellas make us nervous because of weather like we had yesterday. So as long as it's a safe umbrella that's not going to take flight, that's an important consideration.
I know how to bolt them down to the tables. Sometimes then the tables like to move.
They like to go for a dance.
Yep. All right. I think are we good with where we're at on this discussion? Okay. We've got direction for you, Laura, of next steps.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next up would be project status. Laura?
Sure, I just have a couple of things. Our Batavia Chamber of Commerce is hosting a virtual town hall meeting on Friday, June 26th at 9 a.m. And they have invited the city to be the presenter and audience of our local businesses. And what we're going to be talking about is things pertinent to Batavia businesses as we move forward into phase 4, but it'll also be a great opportunity for us to share information about our great public outdoor dining areas as well. Just one more way that we can utilize to get the word out there. We are having annual TIF joint review board meeting, and that will be on Wednesday, June 24th, tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. We have this meeting every year just to share with the other taxing bodies what the performance has been of all of our different tax increment financing districts. We do not anticipate that there is going to be any discussion of the proposed TIF 6 at this meeting. It's just an annual meeting to talk about the existing TIFs. Historic Preservation reviewed the One Washington Place revised building elevations at their meeting yesterday evening, and they approved that unanimously. We have granted 11 small businesses the COVID-19 small business grants that are provide them with an opportunity. What's up on the screen? Is that Howard changing the?
My mistake, pardon me.
Okay, no problem. So just talking about the 11 small businesses, they ordered things like hand sanitizer from Whiskey Acres, who have converted part of their business in order to make sanitizer, and also Batavia located business such as Accurate and Emergent, who also are selling safety supplies and modifications that these businesses are making to their business to make them safer for their customers and their employees. And also Barco Products, who are making fantastic tables and chairs that people are utilizing to expand their outdoor seating areas. So thus far, we've granted about $12,000, but we did want to do another round of applications. We are accepting applications now, and we will accept them through the close of business on July 1st. So if you know of a business that would benefit from that, spread the word. Both the Chamber and Main Street and the City of Batavia have information about these grants on their websites and on social media. In Public Works, we have a public education presentation for Mahoney Creek that will be broadcast on Tuesday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. The public will be able to ask questions. It'll be done in this format, go to webinar. And the broadcast will also be recorded for playback on YouTube via a link through the city's webpage. And we are anticipating that the final study report for Mahoney Creek will be presented to the City Council in August. Another area of interest, Carriage Crest, where we're experiencing some significant flooding issues. We have the final study report for that area that will be presented to the Committee of the Whole at our July 14th meeting. The Main Street project continues to track just slightly behind schedule, but Prairie Street Ward 1 and Area 3 projects are all currently on schedule. And that's all that I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Hey, Laura, this is Elliot. Just a quick question, I guess, or maybe just a statement or reminder. With the Carriage Crest study for July 14th, just again, can't emphasize enough as the correspondence has continued. There's going to be a handful of residents that want to make sure that issues are being brought up and addressed and discussed, and they are absolutely in support of the long-term play here, but are really also looking for any type of short-term relief that they might be able to get. So just really want to make sure that we're prepared, brainstorming ideas, thinking of any possible ways to help them.
Okay.
And then Laura, if I can jump in too, I know that there's quite a few families that were very interested in seeing the report. If it would be appropriate to distribute an approved copy at some point, I would expect that if they have more time to digest the information, rather than having to read it over a weekend before the meeting, it might head off quite a few questions, or at least help them coalesce into naming a spokesperson instead.
Okay.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I have one under others.
Okay,
as all
we'll
of you
start
know,
others.
We recently purchased 916 Park Street, right immediately south of the East Side Cemetery. Several members of the council have indicated to me that they would like to take a look at that property. It's about to be demoed. I know we are working toward that idea of removing it, cleaning up the site, and removing it. But several have said they'd like to just take a quick look at the property. So I think the staff and myself are going to try to come up with a couple of dates. I don't know what they're going to be yet. I would suggest it's probably about a half hour, 45-minute walk through there to see things. We're going to have to unlock some doors because we got the place all boarded up and locked up and everything else. So we got to have somebody there with some keys to let us in. So if you're interested, if you'd let Laura or I know that you'd like to be included in invitations to take the tour, we will probably set those up in the next week to 10 days. So we'll get that done if any members of the council would like to do it. I know specifically the 2 4th Ward aldermen where this is have indicated to me they would like to go see it, but I would certainly extend the invitation to others of you who may want to just go up and see what that's all about, because that has been kind of an interesting piece of property that we've been dealing with off and on for a number of years.
Yeah, if I may jump in, I would caution on how many people we would have in at a time. It is kind of a confined space. It is pretty in poor condition. And if you have a weak stomach, I would recommend you don't go on the tour. Maybe we could film it for you and show you what's going on, because with the warmer weather, it has become much more pungent. So just to forewarn everyone.
So that's the invitation, and thanks, Scott, for bringing that out. We're going to set it up, and if we can only take 2 or 3 of you at a time, that's the way we'll do it. But if any of you would like to go see it, let us know, and we'll set some times for you to take a tour.
Thank you. Okay, I have one other. I will not be here next Tuesday night for the 30th. Since this is my anniversary tonight and I wanted to be here for this meeting, there's no way I'm coming in remotely from being away with my wife next week. So, Mike, if you will run that meeting.
Will do.
No problem.
Mike,
Take care. Thank you,
Brian.
Ron.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Anybody else with any others?
Hey, Alan, it's Dan.
Go ahead, Dan.
So yeah, the council got a letter today from an email today from a Batavia resident who made a request regarding Pride Month. A request that I'm surprised we didn't receive a while ago, and surprised we didn't talk about it. She was basically asking, would it be appropriate for the city to consider flying a inclusive type of pride flag during the month to mark the event? I certainly would support that. Whether or not that's something that the council would like to discuss, at a future meeting, I think would be appropriate. It's maybe a little too late for this year, but probably a meaningful gesture to consider for next year.
I would support it, Dan, if you want to, at some point get that on an agenda and we discuss it. I'm in support of it.
Alan, I too would support that wholeheartedly. I think Batavia is a community of inclusiveness, and this is who we are. And so I would definitely support that.
This is Abby. I support it as well. Does it require a meeting and a discussion to get approved? Or is it something that we could just say, yep?
You know what? I guess I would say this much. I approached the proclamation, the mayor's proclamation that we handled 2 years ago, fairly delicately because I didn't want to put anybody on the spot. If people need time to, as the mayor says, cogitate about it, we certainly don't have to make a decision tonight. But that said, it was a 14-0 unanimous support of the mayor's proclamation, supporting Youth Outlook's commitment to the community. So maybe it's not as controversial of a thing as I think it is. So maybe it doesn't need a meeting.
Okay. If we don't have any opposition, I think you got direction from at least two of us as aldermen. Find out. I have the suggestion that I think maybe talk to Flag Source and see if they have something that they make here in town that we could get, whether they could donate it or whether we would have to purchase it. If we have to purchase it, I'll say right now, I as an alderman will support doing that, and I'm sure I can find a few more, and we'll pay for the flag if they won't donate one.
Yeah, I'll buy the flag if I need to. This is true. I'll buy the flag.
Yeah, I'll buy some flags.
Okay. Did anybody have any others?
I did, Alan.
Go ahead, Marty.
So there was a webinar today on strong towns, and I got to sit with a couple other communities and the programs that they have going on in doing research into their communities. And one of them was out of York, Pennsylvania, and the other one was out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. And just kind of looking, especially the one at Fort Smith, Arkansas, their program 64.6. You could just go to there, and I see a lot of things ripe for stealing, right, Abby? So it was a good talk. We got to highlight some of the things going on and the boardwalk shops, and there's going to be a follow-up on this Thursday on it.
Well, I, for one, Marty, would say thank you for being part of that today. I'm glad you had the time to be, a representative and to be a participant in it. And I think it's something really important that we don't have to say that we have to steal things from other communities, but I think it's good that we look at what the outside world is doing and we also share what we're doing, because I think that's how we've learned, the things we found, the Woonerf and the boardwalk shops, which I think are two great successes. And I think it's good not only to look for more of those out there, but also share the things that we've had that have worked.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for being part of that today.
Well, there was also kind of a part of that where I was speaking with my 92-year-old great uncle the other day, who's a priest, so he likes to speak in Latin a lot. I'm not going to say the Latin part, but he did mention there's nothing new under the sun. And what that means is everything's already been done in the world. We're just kind of perfecting the ideas. And when I mean about stealing the ideas, it's tongue in cheek, but there are a lot of great ideas that are out there, and we can put our own stamp on them and make them unique to us. Boardwalk shops is one of them. Yes, they are done in other locations, but I think we nailed it and knocked it out of the park with the foundational success that we have with what some of the other communities just don't have, the network of volunteers and people that really want to serve the community, and the ideas and the wherewithal to make sure that these plans not only get implemented, but carried through and succeed. And that's why it was good to be highlighted and, recognized for that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any others? If not, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Motion by
Second.
O'Brien,
Second.
second by Beck. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. See everybody in 2 weeks.
Night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, Alan.